Alright, so why are we opening nodes here? So AX and AY, so we're opening closed nodes, contains all sorts of stuff. Closed nodes sub AX. Let's see, sub 0. Not opening node because it's already closed. Well, we should probably not log that out then. It's going to take quite a long time. So all I'm going to care about here is opening nodes. You hate typing out the underscore the most? Well, then you'd absolutely hate my naming conventions. Because I do M underscore on everything pretty much. Pascal Camel. Yeah, that's pretty much the biggest complaint I've ever heard about anybody with the naming conventions I follow. Is just they're like, can you please just get rid of the goddamn M underscore? Because I don't want to type the underscore. And I'm just like, no. Foot pedal might be an interesting idea. Just like, you can get like some gaming pedal or something and then write a program that hacks your keyboard input to simulate like left and right shift and just be down there like a freaking under desk elliptical, just like jamming on these foot pedals. Like the people next to you would be all pissed off because they just keep hearing all these little squeaking of like each each whenever you're typing. You'd be like, seriously, dude, what the fuck is up with these foot pedals? And be like, don't make fun of me, man. I'm disabled. I can't use my pinkies, you bastard. He's like, oh, sorry. And make sure you use like the foot pedals from like Rock Band or something, because that would be the ultimate in being a total asshole to your coworkers. All right, so we're gonna open up the node at. So there's one open node at 488.98. And it looks like it's going through all this stuff without. Yeah, we've got all these variables printing out, so. Alright, let's just clear that. So obviously we're like opening nodes that we shouldn't open. Or something like that. Does heat pop actually pop it off the end or something? Like, is this... Or maybe our heuristic is backwards? Like, we could have an open node map and open a node and check its only 7 fingers. Only 7 fingers. you could just program what the Rock Band said. Just like people played Dark Souls, and you'd be like, let's program Dark Souls on the damn bongos or something. Good luck. Alright, so we are... It looks like we're progressing. Let's see. We're like in the 100s and we're going up in the Y. Unable to find path. Opening node at blah with distance and blah. Okay, so the other thing that we're going to want is to debug the open nodes. So obviously we're going to be, you know, having nodes that we have open. So let's see. We're such a suboptimal. Like, man, how are you so fast with such shitty equipment? Just like, I don't know, man. Alright, so I'm just going to do in like open nodes map here, and so we're going to do open nodes, crap, open node map, so if that contains AX equals false, if open node map dot contains AY equals false, open node map dot add AX, and then we're going to need this T-map here. Alright, and then we basically do if open node map sub ax dot contains a y equals false, then we'll just do the insert. So we'll do open node map sub ax dot add a new node. And let's print the color out. So we're going to do this again for the start. We're going to have red colors for things that we opened. I'm going to have yellow for that, and then we're going to have green for the others. So we're going to go through every node inside of the open nodes on this thing. And we'll write that out. So we're going to have open nodes. Let's see, is it path.mopennodes.add new node? Alright, that should be good. It's probably going to be hard for you to get carpal tunnel. Well, just get programming glove. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody get carpal tunnel that I've been working with. I think I would be much more likely to get, a repetitive stress injury from playing like a whole bunch of League of Losers or something like that. Because you're always jamming that key on the why League of Losers. That's just something people call it. Well, when you work on other MOBAs, like we worked on Dawngate at EA, which is a competing MOBA, right? Like you gotta throw some. You gotta mess with people sometimes. It's just part of the job. You've never heard that name? You've never heard League of Losers? You never heard of Dawngate? Oh yeah, that's because it was a game that existed only for a little while. Never heard of Dawngate, right? That's true. Riggedy, we also it was really fun working with the QA guys on Dawngate because they're all mobile players, and we actually hired the QA guys based on their ranking, their ELO score in League of Legends. Like that was literally when you submitted an application as QA, you needed to include your ELO for League of Losers, and we'd hire you for that. So that was pretty cool. Those guys knew how to trash talk. So you'd gank somebody, and you'd be like, "Oh man, sit down, trash can. Calm down, rookie." And this was like the middle of the studio, professional studio with everybody, and he'd be calling over during lunch, the top of your lungs, just eat that shit, Lord. And and we were on the executive floor, we were on the same floor as Frank Chabot and all the rest of those dudes, and we're yelling profanities at the top of our lungs, over there. That's pretty cool. Alright, so we're definitely trying to add these nodes, and then we're expanding out. Because yeah, it was fun times working with all those dudes. I mean, this is also like we were in the same location as. Why are we still getting this flow feel? Oh, because all these things need to be set. So this is what we've got for our paths right now. This is our texture for this thing. And it looks like we were unable to open the nodes over here. You know, we explored the entire map, basically, is what this thing is saying. Yeah, it's pretty funny. You have the execs come by and play the game. And what happened one time is we're playing against Frank Chabot, and I actually went. He wasn't very good at playing. Like Frank Chabot loved World of Tanks. It's really funny. You'd have to like, his secretary would be like, "Not now. He's playing World of Tanks," and shit like that. So he's pretty good at World of Tanks, but yeah, there's some fun times like that. I killed Frank Chabot during a couple of our playtests because he's being an idiot, and I was like, I can't let him. Like, this is what the game is gonna be like. I gotta kill him. And the QA lead's like, don't do it. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I have to do this. He's like, no, don't. It's like, arr. Yeah, it was pretty funny when I was working at EA2D. The vice president was right behind me. And of course, Duke Nukem Forever came out. So I'm playing Duke Nukem Forever. Literally, like my monitor, I'm like 5 feet away from my boss. Who, my boss and my supervisor were like right there because all the execs were sitting there. And I'm just like playing through that scavenger hunt level in the strip club, and there's just like boobs everywhere. And that was just, there you go. Which game studios, I think that's kind of, it's probably the same thing with any art, any studio that has a lot of content creators that have to make female models and stuff like that. The artists have like straight up porn basically on their screens at all time, because they need references for, you know, for anatomy on everything. So you kind of go blind to that sort of thing after a while, working on games, because you're just like, yeah, that's just what they do all day, is they draw pictures of naked women and men, and then they just like slap armor on it, and there you go. There's a character. You can see that, yeah. That was also the funny thing, was when we were making when we were at Molten Games making Blunderbuss, which is a game that never really made it out of anything other than a couple of YouTube videos. I need to change these debug things. So set texture to paths, set texture to particles, set texture to flow field, and then we need the static flow field texture. Yeah, there we go. Working on this game for Molten Games, and yeah, we can see our texture is lining up properly here with this thing. And what was really funny, at least I thought was funny, was we were targeting Asian markets, and Asian markets have different standards for, like, you know, respect towards women, or the lack thereof. So you pretty much, like, we go to publishers and talk to them, and they'd be like, you know, she needs bigger breasts, and you need to take off more armor, and all that sort of stuff. And they did not give a damn whatsoever about any of that. They're like, no, that's that just has to go. That right there, that's, nope, not skimpy enough. Our customers will not like that. Alright, so this collision volume is actually colliding with our height map, which is why we're not getting a path here. So that's something I need to remember. Because we did our raycasts here, and it actually, you know, we could toggle our height map here, or our distance map. Oh, come on, there's got to be something there. Oh, we didn't construct the static height map. Well, we can go ahead and make that, and we'll see this change here. And as I click the button, it does jack shit. Oh, that's because I just fixed the damn collision. Yeah, never mind. I'm dumb. There's a great spoof picture of a male character done up like the females. Yeah, that would be a thing, wouldn't it? Alright, we did actually find a path. So we're going closed nodes sub cur x sub y, and we're not finding it. What? So x, y is 256. Alright, so the reason this thing isn't working is because we need to actually close the final node. So we want to do this node logic first here, which is going to add it to the closed nodes and all this stuff, and then we'll be good to go. So let's go ahead and close that down. Yeah, it is really funny, like when you actually encounter that stuff. And then like you look at the media or something, they're all talking about how like sexist the game industry is and crap like that, and then you go see like the publishers who are just constantly pushing you to like include stuff, and you know it's like if there's a bunch of like sexist content in these games, it's because the publishers are just like, we need this, and the reason the publishers are like that are because people demand it. Like people want that content. That's why it sells. It's just like, God damn it, you guys. Like, do you want us to have an industry here? Why don't you just realize that like society is fucked up and we're a reflection of that? Like, come on. Yeah, humanity, you can keep it. Take your humanity and get the hell out of here. We need cyborg robots in here. So what is going on here? Oh no, we got an infinite loop here, don't we? We are never setting cur to anything else. Alright, so we're going to say cur equals n. So let's do that. Alright, well, I guess we'll finally get our A-star stuff working properly. I mean, the algorithm isn't difficult for us to implement. We're just dealing with stupid crap, like needing the debug information and just typing out stupidity. Dealing with stuff like not having the data structures that I really want to do this properly. Because pointers and blah 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 blah. Nothing's ever as simple as pseudocode. Not in C++ land, that is. It's like, why is it searching the whole field? Because the exit is wrong. There is no exit. Fool. I am again an idiot. Alright, so cur is going to equal closed nodes sub cur.m privx sub cur.m priv y. Yeah, you know, because, yeah, that's why. Yeah, I had it written down right the first time. I just, since I couldn't use pointers because of issues with the maps, and if the map's resized, then like we can't have a pointer to something and all that. Because it might not be valid data when we get there. So let's construct this thing. We'll see it go. Are we actually getting to any of this? Yeah, so we found the path. It was 167 nodes long. I'm going to return true. Oh god, why did I F10 over that? God damn that init function. Always with its stupid, slow ridiculousness. I hate that bug. Alright, so we found our path and it goes like so. Let me go these distances and costs. I'm printing out this path, and we're pushing this path on backwards. So if we read the path backwards, that's where we would go from. So The distance is going up appropriately as we'd expect. There's no incredible stuff going on there. We set our texture to our path. Our path looks like this. So it opened up all those nodes. You can see the black outline where it opened up stuff and all that. We would not expect it to be this bad. We'd expect it to search a lot better than that for this object. So our heuristic is probably screwed up, but that is the appropriate path. Yeah, the heuristic is definitely screwed up. This should basically go in a straight line over to this location. Like this wandering crap is going to be the heuristic not working properly. So the red is open nodes, the yellow is closed nodes, and the green is nodes that were in this path. So it's probably going to be this cost left and right. The map path of %d nodes. So we're going to do path.num. Alright, so let's construct that again, calculate the paths, and set the texture to the path. This feels like it's opening up a lot more nodes than it should be. What are we doing this based off of? We're doing this based off of the cost, and the cost is the distance previous plus the other one. Oh man, look at this, it's printing out all these nodes. Alright, so how many nodes did it take to get there? It took... It took 149,000 nodes to get there. Alright, so let's set the texture to that. And that's how many nodes... Okay, so obviously our heuristic is correct for the sign on that thing for the predicate, because we literally just closed every single other node on the entire goddamn map before getting to the node here properly, which is really damn funny when you think about it. We will leave no node untouched. This is not A star, this is Z star. Alright, so this predicate is obviously this. So the question is our cost wrong? Is there something that we got wrong with our calculation? So our cost is AX, EX, AX, EY, AX, AX, AY, EY. So it's the distance there, and the distance is the current plus the cost. The cost is 1.41. So why are we meandering around? Because this should definitely not be. This should not be doing this sort of thing. So we should be printing out when we're closing a node. Because I would suspect here that our priority queue is not working properly. Like we have heat push and heat pop, and we would expect the push onto this priority queue to actually pop this thing off properly. It would pop up the lowest cost item. The lowest cost item should be the heuristic distance plus the actual distance traveled. And we could do like a distance traveled squared, and that's like biased A star. It's calculated faster towards the location, but it may not be always perfectly accurate. And like this little bullshit right here, like that is not. Like it should basically go here and then go straight across with closing nodes, right? Like, well, not necessarily. But it should be straight. Like something's wrong with how we're doing this. So let's see what our logs are saying here. And what we're looking for is the costs that don't make sense, like a cost that's lower appearing later, which it doesn't look like it's ever actually happening. Console spam? It's true. So is there something wrong with our algorithm? Like, what is, like, the heap sort is working properly, but obviously our cost calculation is wrong? Like, it looks like our path backwards in our nodes is proper, but there's something that we're doing wrong with our cost. Maybe our costs are incorrect for the distance stuff. So like, maybe we have the incorrect cost in here for going diagonally. So if x equals -1 and y equals -1, or x equals 1 and y equals 1, or what? X equals -1 and y equals 1, or x equals 1 and y equals 1, cost equals 1.414. Because we had the wrong distance cost for these values, then what we would see is this thing would be biased towards going diagonally, which would make sense if it's going diagonally and doing weird crap there, because that's what we're seeing. So it's probably our cost for going diagonally is wrong. There we go. That is definitely what we were expecting to look at. So I had the cost wrong. So there we go. That's what A star is supposed to look like with your pathfinding, where these are the nodes that were open but not closed, and these are the ones that are closed, and these are the ones that are closed successfully, and we have our path backwards properly. So as you can see, like, the search space for that was incredibly small compared to what others would have. We can take this volume over here, this trigger box, and move it around a little bit. Of course, if we're going to move our trigger box around, we're going to have to snag the actual location of that trigger box and hardcode that back in here. So let's do another output object here. Let's do waterfall out 2. And we're going to place it at this location. And let's not print out our closing nodes. And let's also take a look at the biased A star. Usually how you bias A star is by just squaring the distance, which may produce issues with the actual accuracy of the answer, but it works pretty well. It's almost correct, and it cuts down on the number of like search nodes in your search algorithm by a very large margin. Hello, Dead Big Head. Thank you for following. Hopefully you're having a good one. We're just messing around with visualizing our search space, making sure we got the right values and that sort of thing. You know, fun times with that sort of thing. Your game is not tile-based. It is not tile-based. We are using it to get the flow field stuff. Were you around for the explanation of that? I could run through it real quick if you wanted a rundown of how we're going to do flow fields for our water. So that's our search space for that water coming to like this outflow, which would be like, you know, if there was a hole in the ground and we've got both of our search spaces on there. Don't waste time, it's okay. Well, I'm gonna waste time anyway. So the idea is we've got this like lake thing, right? And it's got stuff like inlets and outlets. So if you're gonna draw this, like I've got a sweet looking lake right here. This is the lake. The black parts are the water. Are the land. So what's going to happen here is we've got like a distance algorithm which is telling us where shore is, and I'm kind of going to draw these little lines here which are going to show, which would be our distance texture. So I'm going to fade that out a little bit. And what we want to do is we're going to do A star from, like we have an input flow here, and we have outputs on these two areas, so the water is supposed to flow out and in. So we do A star from our inputs to all of our outputs. And so we've got that right, and that's going to give us the basic flow of the water. That's kind of the idea behind that. So we do A star there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to spawn off these little, I'm calling them particles, and these particles are going to try to travel towards the output that they were spawned from. So they're going to be spawned on these lines for both of these things. And they're going to try to move towards the output at all times, but they're going to collide with each other. So like, because we spawn a particle on the line here for every single thing, so like these particles are going to build up, and they're going to tend to, travel outwards and then come back down and stuff like that as they build up, because we're going to have the particles have a certain speed. So as they get closer to this line, they'll actually go faster towards this thing, so it's going to drain real quick, and these particles are going to kind of they'll tend to move towards this thing, and if we spawn enough particles, we're going to see this flow come out here. And since these particles are colliding with each other, this area is going to fill up, and hopefully what we'll see is, all this stuff actually form the correct flow for this object, which is, then we'll basically snapshot it, and we will get this sort of these sorts of patterns. I have no goddamn idea if this is going to work. I have never done this before. So, you're all along for the ride with me. It's maybe long and frustrating and stupid, but we're doing it. So we went over this. Probably we sat here for like an hour staring at this diagram, seeing like what our algorithm should be. So I'm fairly certain it'll work, but that doesn't mean jack shit in the overall course of things. So cool, we have our A star. What we're gonna want to probably do is rubber band that. Or do we need a rubber band it? What if we just blurred it real big? And what about having more volumes here to start with? Like, I think this will be fine, and then we just let the particles do the rest. And we're also going to want the... Yeah, interesting. We do want to find this, and we want to like lock that X or something. So if we had like an X value, Y value off the side of the texture, we would lock it. Anyway, I'm going to be right back. So, and then we'll keep working on this. Yeah, if you know a better way, Kento 456, to create a flow field from a whole bunch of water data without spending your doctorate's thesis on it, then let me know. Afraid not. This is true. This is true. Alright, so what are some things that we're going to want to do? Let's clean up this pathfinding real quick. I want to make sure that if this x value is off of here that we clamp it. So I'm going to say like if ex is greater than 0, if ex is greater than mmap.mwidth, ex equals mmap.mwidth. If ex is less than 0, ex equals 0. If ey is less than 0, ey equals 0 if ey is greater than mmap.m height, and ey equals mmap.m height minus 1. Alright, so if sx is less than 0, or sy is less than 0, or sx is greater than or equal to mmap.mwidth, or sy is greater than or equal to mmap.mHeight, return false. Okay, so unable to find path. We can just get rid of a few of these things here real quick. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to now actually start implementing some of our flow field, right? Because we got our A star stuff working properly. So what we're going to want to do is like we got our paths. Now we're going to want to actually do our particles. So how do we do that? So in this calculated flow field, we're going to call tick for a certain number of iterations. So let's see, I need to be able to initialize this data without doing everything. Like we want to like cache, I want to call cache components on this stuff, like not create static flow field, but I want to call a cache flow field data. And we don't need the output data, we don't want the simulation ticks, we just want to